So this is the 245 presentation, Changing Perspectives from Deficits to Strengths. And we have Waynette Brock, Melissa Wallace, aka M Love, and Matthew Federici. And Matthew is the executive director of the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery. M Love is the director of programs and lead peer mentor for One New Heartbeat. And Waynette has led peer teams focusing on high-risk individuals and underserved populations, such as those that are incarcerated, individuals seeking recovery from substance use disorder, and those with life-threatening illnesses, as well as anyone who wants to make positive life changes. Waynette lives in Northern California and is director of training for Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery and the CEO of One New Heartbeat. So I will let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Kath. Sorry for that static, but I did hear what you said, so that's okay. Welcome. This workshop is called Changing Perspectives from Deficits to Strengths. So what you can expect today a little bit is hear a little bit from our perspective, probably going to put out some reasons why this is important, and we're going to frame the conversation, but definitely invite and expect you to be a part of the conversation as well. Getting started, I think that M Love, Waynette, and I would like to share a little bit about why this is an important topic. Why are we talking about this topic, right? And a little bit about who we are, right? So, again, my name is Matthew Federici. I'm executive director of the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery. And I would say this is a really important topic to me because actually this, for me, is the heart and soul of really what I want to be showing up in every aspect of my life. It is probably the hero's journey here. It's the hero to what almost robbed me of a life, right? Was the opposite of this, right? That coming from a deficit perspective and internalizing all of that in my life took me to a place of isolation, and I think that isolation is the main cause and the main area that we need to support everyone to avoid isolation. Isolation kills. I found myself at a place of severe isolation. I won't say severe mental illness. I'll say severe isolation, and I think that's something that we can all kind of rally behind. But underneath of that, for me, is all these spaces and places and messages and languages that many of us have probably encountered that convey deficit perspectives. And when that gets internalized, that's where the isolation really creeps in, and that's what I experienced. And the path forward was to reverse that. And part of that was finding places and spaces and people who support a focus on strengths and what's working. And so at the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery, the reason why I'm here is that the organization was an organization built by people who came together to focus on what is working, not on what's not working, right? Recent research has come out to show that even as much as we may think it's cathartic to vent and complain about things in our lives, actually the research is showing that that's very detrimental to us, and that sometimes when we complain and vent about things, it actually brings us right back to those things. It evokes those emotions, right? And so when I started to get well and stay well, and when part of my path was like I knew that people can change their own lives because I started to. And I knew what the things were and the privileges and resources and opportunities that I had to begin to change my own life and get out of that place of isolation. And I wanted to bring that to others. So probably like many of you, what I did was I hit the books. I started figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to spend the rest of my life supporting people to get well and stay well? So I went and got degrees, and so I can go work in places that were there to help people recover. And what I found was not quite exactly what I was looking for. I found myself in places and spaces where it was built around what was wrong and how can we fix or take care of or protect people. And on one side of me, my values were like, well, I want to protect people too. I want to take care of people. But what I didn't realize is how disempowering that is. Why do we start to take care of people, to help people from a place of deficits, right? That they need that, right? That it can be very disempowering to come from a place of, let me take care of that for you. And this is what I found I was surrounded by, environments that were really based on that, and not based on you can and you will, right? But based on, you know, you're struggling, you've made some mistakes, you've made some wrong decisions, you have something broken with you. Let us try to help you and fix that. And that wasn't working for me. It wasn't working for me at all. And it wasn't actually what I knew. And the other piece to this was I wasn't allowed to even see my own journey as a strength. It was seen as to disclose my own experience with my challenges and mental health challenges. That was seen as crossing a boundary, right? That I needed professional distance. And so many things kind of restrained in that environment to truly come from a strengths-based perspective. And that was hard for me. So that's when I began to find places and spaces that were going to support strengths-based perspectives. And coming from a place of empowerment, connection, and validation. And that I found in movements that were heading towards peer support, recovery, psychiatric rehabilitation. One of their key principles was strengths-based. Although I found myself working at a psych rehab agency, and we'd have meetings where everyone would get around and talk about the barriers and challenges and problems with getting their clients to do certain things. And I'd say, wait a minute, aren't we psych rehab? I thought the principle was focus on strengths. Why aren't we hearing about what's working for this person, what their strengths were, what their resources were? Then I had the wonderful opportunity to come to the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery, where everything, the whole organization is built on this notion. And everything that we do and we choose to do, what we do and we don't do here, is based on focusing on what's working with people in their lives, inviting people into spaces to share and learn from each other from what's working. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit about why I'm choosing to do this workshop, and maybe a little bit about the values you can expect to come across here in this workshop. I want to invite my co-facilitators as well to share a little bit about why they're here and why this topic's important to them.
Thank you, Matthew. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. So my name is Waynette, and you know, the reason that this topic is near and dear to my heart, because it's an ongoing process for me. And you know, what I learned early on, it's been 19 years and 6 days that I've been looking at my strengths, so I'm better equipped to see others, right? For the simple fact that how I'm feeling about me dictates how I treat you. And that doesn't matter if you're my significant other, my child, my sibling, my boss, my employee. It's like in all aspects of my lives, in all these relationships that I'm in, whether you're the cashier and I'm buying something at the grocery, how I'm feeling about me dictates how I'm treating you. And it's about, for me, shifting the perspective, meeting myself where I'm at so I can meet others where they are at, right? And looking for the strengths in individuals and the gifts that they bring to the world. I'm a firm believer in, if I spot it, I got it. People are holding up mirrors. Sorry, I'm one of those old Synanon behavior modification people, because that's what I needed in my life at the time, and it did save my life. But I've evolved as a human being, and my journey and the process has evolved right alongside of me, right? And they used to always tell me, we're just holding up the mirror. We're just holding up the mirror. Don't you get out of that seat. We're holding up the mirror. And they told me about myself. But my perspective was, their perspective was not my reality. And again, it was a process, not an event. So really, really focusing on strengths and veering away from perceived deficits. It's near and dear to my heart because this is how I live my life most of the time to the best of my ability. So that's me. Woo, woo.
Thank you, Wayne.
So greetings. My name is Melissa Levon Wallace, but on the screen there you see M Love, which is a kind of condensed version of my full name that I did not know who this person was. So I'm here because to actually take a more active role in living and actually choosing life, I had to change my perspectives. So, um, long journey to being able to do that started with taking control of my identification. I didn't feel who Melissa was. And so I changed my perspective and saw her as love, which stands for self love. So every time I see it, and I use it almost interchangeably now with Melissa because that's just who I am, just having another experience. So I get to be a person with a very creative mind, and I get to work with people who are living um, a very structured life now every day with a plan in mind. And so together, I have a very interesting life. So that pursuing that has led me from the East Coast to now the West Coast, where I am getting one of the best educations I could never pay for. And just learning to take this journey as a person looking for self love. Um, and it turned out to be in everyone that chose to interact with me. A little bit of self love was in there. And by getting to know and love them, I firmly choose to love myself every day. And so that journey is wrapped in a name. So anything that sounds like love, I'll take it. Um, I am, as I said, I don't know if I said Southern born. And so every now and then you'll hear a little country fall out of my mouth. Just smile. I know it. I know. I know when it's getting to my lips and I can't stop it. But I am very transparent about the journey to life every day. And I'm looking forward to interacting with you guys as we kind of look at ourselves differently and with love. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma.
You in love.
And so we invited you to share in the chat. We invited you to share in the chat your name and why you chose to be here too. And thank you for those that did. And please continue to do it if I'm pointing this out to you. But so we had Jonathan said curious. Sue said an area I need to work on. Thank you, Sue. We all do. I have to say we're not here to say, oh yeah, we do this great. We're great at this. We're here too because we need to work on it. That's why we're talking about it. That's why we choose to do the work. The work keeps us focused on it. Leslie shared from NAMI SMC. Was super interested due to the title, so that's great. It's kind of in line with curious. And let's see, anyone else check in yet? Okay, Katera is here, so I appreciate that you bring all that you bring to the table. Thank you for that. All right, anyone else before we move on a little bit about your name and why you're here? Thank you, Herman. This is a topic that we need to continue to grow and develop. Absolutely. That's again why we're here is we create the spaces for the conversations we believe are important. So great, we have a lot coming here. Hey, Sandra. Self-love is what I'm working on also. So real connection, validation there for you, Love. Looking at strengths came from the real Kathy. And we have Deanna from Riverside, interested in the topic. Julie Baker, to improve as a supervisor. Excellent, awesome. Well, you can keep rolling them in there. Thank you for sharing. We wanted to share about this and why it's important to us, and a little bit about how shifting from a deficit to a strengths-based perspective, how that relates to our own wellness and our own story, because this really is an inside-out story. The strengths we see in others, and this is what we're going to kind of explore. Is we see what we're looking for, and we see with the power of the lens that we're seeing with, right? So we all start with our own work on that. Well, so some really glad to see some familiar faces from the earlier sessions. For the benefit of people who maybe weren't there, maybe to the detriment of people who already were, you're going to hear this again. But the Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery is here to promote personal, organizational, and community wellness and empowerment through education, training, and research. You can find out more about us at copelandcenter.com. The Copeland Center for Wellness and Recovery has been an international peer-run nonprofit organization since 2005, has trained and certified more than 10,000 co-facilitators worldwide. to offer an evidence-based peer group model called WRAP. We also provide trainings on peer support, community inclusion, and other wellness recovery topics. Anyone can become a member of our community of peer support. You can register for training, seek certification as a WRAP co-facilitator through our program, Doors to Wellbeing. There are just hundreds of hours of continuing education focused on these topics as well. So just a little bit about the organization that is putting this together and here with you today. All right, so getting started. Let's talk about focusing on strengths, right? And one of the things that we want to say about this is that this is a touchstone, a cornerstone, a foundation of what peer support is all about. It's why peer support has achieved the research standing. It's why it's becoming one of the fastest growing workforces in healthcare right now, is certified peer specialist, peer support workforce. Why? Is because this is a workforce that is based on focusing on strengths, not the traditional focus of the healthcare system, folks. And so not only is it something that is personally important to us, as we shared in our stories a little bit, but it is actually a part of the ethics and the competencies of what this work is supposed to be about. And you can reference more and do a little bit more outside of this workshop and looking into that. And you can access the National Association of Peer Supporters National Practice Guideline for peer specialists and supervisors. You can also find, if you check out SAMHSA's website, you'll see there in the core competency of developing skills and ability to focus on strengths is an ethic, it's a competency, it is an expectation, it is a duty to provide that in the workforce that we are building and providing here. So, so glad that we get to talk about this here at a conference that is all about building that peer workforce as well as the supervisors. One of the greatest phrases I think many of us have echoed is that we want to find what is strong, not what is wrong, right? And really focusing on that. One of the things that I really found can be a parallel is, you know, it can really also challenge that workplace environment, all workplaces environments, right? That if we don't lead from all aspects of our lives, a place of focusing on strengths, it trickles on down through our services, right? And this is why this is so important, is because when we're working with people who are encountering significant challenges and barriers in their lives, we know the most significant and supportive thing we can do for them is to find what is working and to identify and empower them to use their resources, their strengths in their lives and build off of that. And that takes a very keen focus to do it. And that nothing should take us off of that focus. And that also means that when we're being supported by our colleagues and supervisors, the best thing they can do to support us to do our job well is to do that as well for us, to parallel that all the way through, right? Many of the concepts that we have discovered and found the research for that promote recovery, we also find they're the best leadership and business practices as well. So we're going to probably talk a little bit about that as well. What we want to do is we're going to break into groups. I don't know, Waynette or Emlove, somebody can work on, you're working on making those breakout groups for us right now. But we're going to invite you to groups to answer 2 questions and share with each other. What does strengths mean to you? And how do I practice this value and find strengths in others? This is where we want to share ideas. What have you figured out about this? But as an example, what strengths mean to me, I'm just want to illustrate a little bit that I've come to recognize that sometimes this language can sound a little ableist, right? And I want to be clear that for me, when I talk about strengths, I mean your resources and capabilities, a person's resources and capabilities. I'm not talking about physical strength or body function strength. I'm talking about resources and capabilities and capacity that we each have in our own lives to get things done that we want to get done in our lives. And so for me, that's what is meant by strengths. So would like you to check in your groups around what strengths mean to you and how are you practicing that value? What have you found helps you practice that value and helps you find that in others.
Okay, Matthew, Sue again. I don't know how I keep getting kicked out, but I'm in room 6.
Oh, I closed the room, Sue, because
Oh.
Matthew was giving an illustration so you guys would have a direction before. We always do it first and then invite people to, we model it. That's what we call it. We model it first.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
strengths for me like are assets. And what I've learned along the way is that, again, I see what I'm looking for, right? And the way I get to put that value into practice with others is I have this wonderful list of 100 things. So in the moment, I can just stop. And if there's a conflict or a different perspective in the room, I can look for people's strengths, their assets, the gifts they bring to the world, the way that they enhance my life, right? And I just have this list of 100 things. Like, oh my God, Matthew's so creative and has self-control, and he's so kind, and he's consistent, and he does selfless service, and he's caring, and he has faith and harmony and awareness and dignity and balance in his life, along with being hopeful and enthusiastic. So I can just, off the top of my head, right? Those strengths, right? It's can't be that simple. Yeah, it's that simple. Thank you.
Well, being the admitted dreamer in the bunch, I'm really into superhero characters. So anybody that's into, I grew up on Looney Tunes and Superman and DC Comics like you guys did, but I really had an issue with Superman. You Superman and you always got defeated until there was a moment when you just found the it. And I'm like, the whole time, dude, you're Superman. But anyway, strength to me is like that. When you're defeated and you're just going down for the third time, and then there's this it that you've suddenly locked onto. And you, in the moment when you rise up inside of yourself and you turn to whatever that barrier is, and you attack it a different way. And so a gift that I enjoy using every day is finding, as I said, a little bit of myself in the person in whom I'm working with. Usually it's now my life is on screen and in person a little. So things have flip-flopped, but I love listening to and looking for my opportunity to be the one in that moment to show them their it, and locking with that and adding my energy with that. And so I love finding the it in me, because that's why I'm still here. No, there was no earth-shattering thing that happened outside of me. It was something inside of me that said, "You've got a little bit more steam in you. Let's try it again." And so we all have that at certain times, and we get to do that with each other, and we get to really get curious about each other, and but in a very good and supportive way. So I've learned and enjoyed the difference between supporting and helping, and doing that in these Brady Bunch screens with you guys, like we're doing right now. So my approaching and saying yes to this opportunity is how I'm practicing it, looking at these screens and seeing what you're allowing me to see, that you're here and resilient, right? And we lock with that, and we practice it together. Everybody knowing that this is what we're doing. We're all here doing the same thing, right? And so it's a beautiful practice. And so I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have come up with in your breakout rooms.
Thank you, Waynette. Thank you, and love.
Thank you, Matthew.
She said she was in the room with my desktop. Sorry, I apologize.
It was kind of quiet in there, Waynette.
Sorry, Sandra.
I love laughter. I love that. Awesome.
Life's too short. It's just too short. After these last 2 years, it's too short not to have fun. It's too short, right, David? Sam.
True that.
Yes, right. I'm trying to figure out how to turn my microphone back on. Yeah, strengths to me are like those positive qualities in a person that just kind of flow from the moment you talk to them or make contact with them. There are people who are just good at making friends as soon as they walk into a room. There are people who have that gift of speech and drawing people in. To me, that's a strength. I don't always possess that strength. If I walk into a place where there's a bunch of new people, I can go introduce myself, but I don't have that gift of just continuing a conversation. I don't have that strength all the time because I'm a little bit nervous in this new room full of people. So, I'm not quite sure where to go with a conversation. But there's a lot of positive qualities that, as a quiet person, I see when I take the time to watch people communicate and learn how to communicate with other people. It's pretty cool to watch, and then I can kind of get involved with that, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Thank you, David.
Yeah.
You got that, Matthew? Thank you.
Yes, Sandra.
Where's Sandra? Where's she at?
Here I am, but I promise you, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want to see me today. I am in my PJs. I've been working on the computer all day. So yeah, I'm hiding behind that little camera. But anyway, no, strengths to me is being able to encourage and validate myself and not looking to the outside for that. It took a long time to be able to do that, and I'm still working on it and probably will until the day I die. But to me, it's like I might fall off that horse many times, but I get my ass right back up and get right back on it.
Right.
And I don't stay down any longer. I'm like real quick to get back up. And how I practice this value and find strengths in others is easy. That has always come so easy for me. And just to be able to see the goodness, the strengths, all the good in other people, and to be able to encourage them and not be afraid to tell them what I see in them. And how that I was born in just to be an encourager. I know that. But we get all that muck all over us and layers and stuff that we're continually peeling off. And anyway, but it's so easy for me to encourage people, and I love to encourage people. I love to make people laugh, even if it is at my own expense, because most of the time, for years, I had to learn to laugh at myself, because if I didn't, I would have been totally humiliated all the time, because I did some stupid stuff, and but looking back, it is what it is, but getting stronger every day, and doors are opening, and just things, I don't know. It's like whenever you get to where, like Matthew was talking about, and this whole thing is all about the strengths. Whenever you focus on your strengths and not your deficits, doors start opening, things start happening for your good, whereas whenever you stay the other way, and I can say that because I was the other way for so long, I didn't know any better. And it is a process, just like Melissa, my love, says. you know, and it's an ongoing process, but I'm loving it, I'm living it, and I'm growing every day. And I'm just super excited and grateful to be here too with you guys to talk about this, because it is very uplifting. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Sandra.
No, guys, thank you all, you ladies and gentlemen.
I'm okay with guys. I know what you meant.
I know you did, girl.
I can't. I just can't. You guys is like y'all to me.
Y'all, I know, and I'm from
Y'all.
I'm from the South, if you can't tell.
Well,
A little bit, maybe.
well.
Won't he do it? Those are the miracles we have in our lives, right?
Yeah, lots of them.
I love what you said about it's like an ongoing journey, and the more is revealed, right? It's like peeling back the layer of the onion, and it comes with tears. It's like, but it's so worth it, right? It's so worth it. That's the work.
It is work. It is the hardest work I have ever done in my life, but it is finally, you know, it is well worth everything, every amount of energy, every tear you cry, every time you feel like giving up. And I've had many, 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 many of those times, but I didn't, and I'm still here, and I'm grateful, and just I just feel just so blessed, so blessed.
You are. You are.
We all are.
Yeah.
We are.
But we a lot of times we take it for granted. At least I do, and I don't recognize that it took years for me to be able to love the reflection I saw staring back in the mirror. Right?
I couldn't even look in the mirror, girl.
Me either, not for long. Not when I'm 95 pounds, but thinking I was looking cute and everything. But
hey, I will let
the
you
internal dialogue that we have with ourselves, right? That whole conversation that goes on. It took me years to be able to just, yeah, people are holding up mirrors, and 9 times out of 10, I didn't like the reflection I was seeing, because again, you spot it, you got it. And that was a process, not an event, right? To change the dialogue, the conversation I was having with myself about me.
And that is a long process too. But I'm glad you got there, and I'm stepping out. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, Sandra.
I'm enjoying this though. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I think.
Do we have people in the rooms?
Oh, I better close them, huh?
Yeah,
we're sitting up here talking. I forgot we're doing a presentation. Close all rooms.
I was texting you guys in the chat. I'm like, hey, do we have?
Yeah.
Well, you could have closed the rooms. So we're going to give people about a minute to get back in the rooms, and then we're going to ask everyone how that experience was for them and utilize the chat box. Carry on, Matthew.
Yeah, well, I want to invite some of the people that, whether for technological or personal reasons, they didn't join the small groups they were assigned to. We have a minute now, because there's 80 seconds till they close, if you wanted to kind of share your own personal reflection. Again, we're just creating spaces here for what does strengths even mean to you, and how do you practice this value and find strengths in others? What have you found works? Okay, just 30 more seconds. Welcome back.
No, he didn't. One of my
Welcome back.
favorites.
I'll tell you, one of the things that helped me focus on strengths is to try to keep having fun. I think I find strengths better in relationships when I'm still finding ways to have fun, creativity. Um, you know, I think, we see what we look for. So if we're going to see strengths in ourselves and others, right, we have to know what we're looking for. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We want to invite you to come back and share what some things that you discovered in those conversations. We'd like to kind of learn from each other, like what does strength mean to everybody? Let's get a deeper understanding of what that word means. Let's get a deeper understanding of what things that are working for people. For me, I have to tell you, one of my biggest tools to practicing the value of strengths is choosing the right language to use, right? And one of that is to really think about the narrative the language and the narrative of my life around hope versus fear. When I'm in a place and my thinking and my words, my lens is coming from a place of fear, it's really hard to see the strengths and what's working, right? So if I can catch that, check it, and change it, right? Back to hope. Then I start seeing that, right? And I'll tell you, language is really powerful because there are a lot of language programs that I inherited, was given to me. Like, for example, people often use the phrase, "What's the worst that will happen?" Right? And introduced to me the concept of this phrase: "What's the best that can happen?" Why don't we ask that question more in our lives? What's the best that can happen? Even in the midst of a very challenging moment, what's the best that can happen? And it just creates this new language for me. So that's my reflection. Again, I'm just turning this back to you all because we're going to learn so much more the more we can all just share, like what came up for you, what strengths mean to you, and what are some of the tools and tricks that you've learned to find strengths. What are you looking for? Please share.
I love that. What's the best that can happen? I'm going to start using that. So I can, when working with peers, I can sometimes talk about, asking them what are your strengths and stuff, but phrasing it that way, that's the new one for me. And I just wrote it down. I'm going to use that.
Thank you for sharing, Kathy. I see Joni said in the chat box here, strengths are things I have an authentic connection with. Oh, thank you so much. That's a layer of what strengths can mean, right? Is a connection. Like dedication, hard work, possibility, helping others. And, just unpack a little bit there, Joni, what's great about that is you're mentioning things that often would also be described as our values. We value dedication. We value helping others. And so if we're going to see strengths, we're going to see it from the lens of our values, right? I think that's important that, we have to really know what our values are because that's the strengths we're going to see are going to come from those values. Thank you. Anyone else? What came up in your small groups? What did you discover? What did you learn? What did you hear? What do you want to share?
As I was listening to you, Matthew, and you as well, Kathy, I remember when, as I said, searching for self-love, I could find no redeeming qualities in myself, but I noticed how quickly I was able to, and I enjoyed being there for other people. And I would use maybe something that I did well, like maybe baking or cooking, to help make someone else feel well, right? Make them smile or whatever. So I couldn't, there was something I wasn't able to access, maybe internally, but I took a hobby of mine, which is, and reframed it. It is a strength. I'm not well all the time, but I can bake, I can cook, and take it and use that to be a help to someone else, which in turn helps me. So there's that finding um, a strength and then using it to become a wellness tool for myself, right? So it's like if you play pool, it's like being able to not just hit your ball, but maybe you get 2 or 3 in, right, off of one. So always looking out for what I can do is a new way of look that I choose to approach life now. What can I do though, right? And it's been a real help for those times when I can't find it tangibly, but it's there, and I want to. There's a part of me that really wants to find my strength in that moment, but it may come, as I said, in the form of a hobby. So I had to change what I'm looking for. It's being open.
Because what? You don't have to be well to do this work. But we what, Matthew?
We get well by participating.
That's right.
And stay well, right? It's through the participation. There's no putting something on hold before you're ready. We jump right in there.
And that's our community inclusion course. For more information.
So I'm going to move on to the next slide here just because of time. But one of the things that I think we really want to underscore here is that that's the conversation. Invited into our lives with our friends, our family, when we're choosing to support people along their journey and peer support. Have the conversation. What is strengths? What are strengths to you, and how are you practicing it? Right. When we're doing this work and we want to bring it into our whole programs, it's like what are our tools to do that, and continue that conversation. How are we inviting in those opportunities, right? How often are we checking in with ourselves, like Waynette showed us? How often are we inviting in with our friends, our family, our coworkers? What are the accomplishments, right? What have we accomplished? What are we excited to share about? What did we discover this week that really worked for us? I invite you to reflect on these questions. What are some of the things that happened for you today or this week that you made happen for yourself that worked? So I talk about at the beginning here that inherited a lot of language and a lot of perspectives that are not based in a culture that is focused on strengths. Everyone is familiar with the red pen, right? Everyone, raise your hand if you're familiar with the red pen going to school. That mark on the test, that X, what you got wrong, and sometimes that has translated for a lot of us that we learn by an expert telling us what we got wrong, right? And that is a huge mythology that we learn from a focus on our deficits. And that's what our education system is based on. So I know we're all in recovery from this, right? We're all in recovery from this. And, they have probationary periods at work. Why in the world would we ever phrase something like that? Why would we call it a probationary period, right? So we've inherited a lot of things that come from traditions that are based in deficits, right? So we've got a lot of work to do here. This is why we want to come together and really talk about what's working. One of the things we can do is we can challenge some of these institutions based in deficits with evidence. So I can tell you that there are studies that have shown that we get much better productivity rates in the workplace, for example, much better performance in athletics, in school, and when you have leadership that praises and focuses on what's working. And here's the number one kind of warning if you don't have a culture that is focused on habits and traditions and routines of praise and focus on what's working. Is the research shows us that the greatest risk to a business is when leadership loses its focus on what's strong or working and focuses on the problems. And here's why. One, the problem becomes the focus. It's a lot harder to bring teams together and say, what's the best that can happen? What are our hopes and dreams and goals? It's a lot easier for people to come together and tell you what the troubleshooting is, what the problems are, what needs to be fixed. So if you're in a work environment that centers most of its meetings around what are the challenges and what are the problems and how do we fix it, that's going to translate into your brand, your products, your services, right? It becomes the focus of what your brand is. And we're in the business of helping others and supporting others. Well, we wouldn't want that to be the focus. We want the focus to be on empowerment and what's working, right? We lose sight of the team's strengths and underutilize the resources. So this is a really easy measurable thing that happens in companies, is that when we have a culture that is focused on what's wrong instead of what's strong, is so many talents and resources within the team go underutilized and recognized, right? A lot of times the way we can focus more on strengths is when things aren't working out the way we expect them to, rather than saying, well, there must be something wrong with the person and what they're doing, is to look at the person environment fit, right? That finding the right interests and strengths of the individual and matching them up with the right community environment is often the best path forward, right? But if we get stuck and we don't think that the environment is changeable, we don't think job descriptions are changeable, right? We don't think we can do things differently, then we can find ourselves stuck, right? But when we can look at that whole picture and look at strengths, then we can utilize our resources in our community better. And here's what I would say. One of the biggest things that happens is when we don't praise people for what is working, we don't let our supporters know what they're doing that is supporting us, the biggest risk is they'll stop doing it because they don't know that it's working. So we have a duty, a responsibility to shine a light on what's working and strengths. And it can be very costly when we don't do that, from a moral, economic, and even a civil rights position, right? So praise and focus on what is working. It has also been well documented that environments and cultures that focus on what is wrong and fixing problems actually foster an environment of bullying. Of course, we all know bully is a strong word, but sometimes bullying can be in a subtle form, an environment where, again, we're just what's wrong is strong. So cautionary tales, but also some hope there. One of the biggest things is when we don't focus on praising and what's working and communicating and bringing that into our life on a regular basis, we lose the power of hope, which will lead us into kind of the next section, talking a little bit about a framework for what can support us to focus on strengths. So one way to lead from strengths in our lives is to take a look at a couple key concepts here. And I'm going to invite Waynette and Emlove to share a little bit more on this too. But here's a framework for shifting language, shifting perspective, but focusing on hope, personal responsibility, empowerment, connection, and validation. So these are what we would consider to be some critical concepts in our lives that's going to help us promote strength and shift away from perceived deficits. So let's dig into that just a little bit with the time we have.
Is this me? I guess so.
It can be you. It could be you.
It could be me. Could be me. Long day. So the power of hope. You know, I love this acronym. Hope for me is just having my own personal experience, right? It used to be hearing other people's experiences, but now it's like having my own personal experience and just hold on, pain ends. So, you know, we don't need, nor do we benefit from dire predictions, right? And coming from this from a strengths-based perspective is key for me in my interactions with people I report into and people that report into me, if we're talking about the work environment. but it starts at home, right? I have to take this and live it for me, right? I have to live it and practice. I'm like a doctor, you know, doctors practice medicine. I practice this stuff in my personal life, because whatever happens in my personal life is going to follow me into the next room, as Love says, right? Everything follows us into these rooms. So there's, you know, this growing body of evidence that positive emotions impact our openness and cognitive flexibility, problem-solving abilities, empathy, willingness to seek variety, and persistence. So what supports me to have hope in difficult times is really hearing other people's experiences. So I'm not coming into the conversation with a preconceived notion. As Matthew talked about our values, right? Our values, right? We see strengths because of our values. However, when there's a different perspective in the room, how do I have the conversation so that these different perspectives can coexist, right? And we can get to the solution, because it's not realistic. We're human and stuff shows up, right? So what supports me in those difficult times is to remain humble, and humble for me means teachable, right? To be able to have an open conversation about whatever it is, right? And then as I get new information, my perspective may change, right? And then I'm really valuing what people are bringing to the table, right? Focusing on what's strong, not what's wrong. It's just different perspectives that are in conflict sometimes. Matthew, Love?
Yeah, the power of hope really also was a turnaround for me. It's gets me up, and I know I'm there when I'm in my.
Rope. Oh,
Can you hear me? I'm in my day
yes.
now, and I have hope for tomorrow. I can say, you know what, tomorrow I want pasta, right? I interact well with life through food. So it's a motivator. So food can pull me to want to see tomorrow. And at times I couldn't, I would think about what I wanted and I wanted nothing but nothing, right? So being willing to find more space in a space that I thought was full. I thought I had enough. And being willing to find more space in there by being curious about life, curious about myself, that is hope. So in difficult times, it's looking for my curiosity. Where is my sense of humor? If you can make me smile, we're in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of my indicators. You know, I'm happy, and I want other people to be happy as well, and I can find it there. So always willing to take a look at what I'm thinking. I no longer believe what I think. I'm not married to everything, every thought that hits my head. It can be
Right.
looked at again. Whereas before it was this way or no way, which leaves you with no options. So I love options. I like choices, right? So choosing to adopt that way of looking at everything with as a, I don't know, let's get curious, has led me on a very beautiful journey. So I'm looking forward to seeing what's in here as what supports me to have hope in difficult times. Starting backwards, Jonathan, to take a pause, becoming present and aware of breath, creating inner space, relaxing, and allowing everything to come and go. Then look again for the first time, feeling. Thank you. Remember and remind myself what I have overcome and created in my life. This too shall pass. Thank you. I heard that just yesterday. I was listening to something motivational, and they mentioned that phrase, "This too shall pass." It's very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the fact that I have survived other difficult times, very much a motivator of hope. Awesome. Rope of hope. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
Rubber dope. Yeah.
Some love. I would just share too that we have overcome difficult times, and I remember, a lot of times I take from a lot of other leaderships. And I remember when President Barack Obama shared some difficult times in our history as a country and how we overcame them. And what he was practicing there was something I really firmly believe in, and what you all just demonstrated, which is that looking back to our recovery on many different levels, the recovery we have achieved can help us through the recovery that we will achieve again and during difficult times. I think also one of the really practical strategies that promotes hope and helps increase the positive emotions and ability to think through difficult times is generating ideas about what could be, generating ideas around possibilities. So if you're working in relationships or groups of people and it feels like we're in crisis together or having a difficult time together, focusing on strengths, it can be a great practice to just come together and let's say, hey, let's not discuss, let's not be forced into making decisions. Let's just generate some ideas of what could be right now. It can really help communities move forward. Rather than what we tend to do sometimes is we come together and we generate all the lists of things that aren't working. and that's what this study is about that you see here cited, was that they actually did a study where they had two groups work on the same task, and one group was given a lot of information about the problems and how difficult it would be and the challenges and how other people didn't do it, and the other group was given messages of hope. They were told there's many, many solutions to this problem. They were given giving a lot of encouragement that this was a very doable project. And indeed, the results showed the group that had more hope came up with more ideas. They worked more productively together. And so one of the things you might want to consider practicing if you're stuck in a relationship or as a team is put aside all, what the challenge is for a moment and just brainstorm what the possibilities could be. And mark my word, you'll find that you'll be able to move and find solutions and through those difficult times more. Well, I'm mindful of the time, so I'm going to take us on to the next slide, which I think I did promise to share or do. So, personal responsibility, right? And so, a lot of times when we want to focus on strengths, but we may find others around us are not, we cannot control other people, right? But we are an influence on each other. And so one way to harness that influence is to model focusing on strengths ourselves, right? Focusing on what is working. And research has shown, right, that personal responsibility is very powerful and it cuts both ways, right? When people, rather than take personal responsibility, focus on blame, shame, what other people are doing or not doing in a situation, this can be contagious. When we take personal responsibility to focus on strengths and echo strengths and communicate strengths, it can be contagious. We also know that there's been studies done that would take a look at people who would hear stories from leadership where the leadership blames other people. There's actually a study that was done where they took a cohort of individuals and they read a story about Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger and a failing of his leadership, where he went on to explain the reason why that happened, and he went and blamed on other people. Another group was told a story, similar story, but instead the narrative was changed where the governor took responsibility for what had happened and what he was going to do to make a change. And then on a separate occasion, those two groups were asked to share a story about a time where something didn't work out the way they wanted to. And the group that was given the story of leadership that focused on blaming someone else or other things, they were twice as likely to describe a story where they blamed other people for what wasn't working. The group that heard the story from leadership where they took responsibility and focused on what they would do to change the situation also reflected that narrative. So this is really to send a message about how we can impact and influence the whole world around us to focus more on strengths when we focus on more of our strengths ourselves.
Woo! Woo!
I think what we want to do is, remember we were talking about thought experiments, introduce these next couple slides as some more things to think about when we're working on strengths in our lives.
I think we're over time, Matthew or Kathy.
I don't know if I'm still crackly, but we have another presentation at 4, and then we have to get the speaker and set everything up. So I'm afraid we'll have to wrap up. Is it still crackly?
It is. So I did put a
Sorry.
link. I put a link. Thank you, Kath. I appreciate your patience and your support. I did put a link in the chat box. First and foremost, please do the evaluation. And Kath, if you could share the outcomes from our sessions, that'd be great. There is a form, an interest list. So there's a couple of free workshops and trainings that One New Heartbeat and the Copeland Center are sponsoring thanks to this Peer Workforce Investment Act grant. So there's an interest form, and then at the bottom of that, if there's any topics you'd like to explore, just put that in there, and we will get back to you. So, Matthew?
Thank you for being here. Again, these were short, compressed timeframes. Consider these to be teasers of the kinds of workshops and the structure that we follow here. So thanks for being here. It's always hard to cram these into conference presentations, but we do it. We do it because it's better to get the information out and give you a little sense of what it is that we do and the kinds of topics we cover. So thank you.
Thank you.
Woohoo!
All right, so we can log out.
Woohoo! Hey, I was trying to get my camera to work. I was wanting to get on here and just really visit with y'all and just be real.
Oh,
Nice.
Sandra, there's no other way for you to be but be real. I know that from personal experience. So great to hear your voice and see you. Well,
And you as well, Matthew. Thank you, guys. It was awesome.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Mr. Sonny, our neighbor. Be neighborly.
Always, huh, Sonny?
Oh, Sonny, we're gonna see Sonny.
All the time. Y'all are fabulous. Y'all are absolutely fabulous. So yeah.
Y'all did great. Awesome.
Peace.
Awesome.
Thank you. I will contact you, Sonny. All right.
All right, so we can log off.
You guys wouldn't mind taking down the presentation so that we can test the next one?
Okay,
Nice. Thanks, Kat.
we'll get out of here.
All right. We go over there and support Mason. Bye.
Do you have a room we need to go in, or we can stay here? What do we do?
No, just go into the regular 3 o'clock. Anissa.
Oh, okay, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. That'd be
Thank you
great.
so much, Kathy. Awesome working with you.
Katera, good to see you.
Catherine, not Kathy.
Well, Dr. Cash,
Hello there, Waynette.
I'm so proud of you. When
Thank
did we
you.
get that doctor?
Oh, well, we got it in 17.
Nice.
We got it in
That's been a long time.
17. Yes, ma'am.
Congratulations. I'm
Thank
working on
you.
mine.
Hey.
Yeah, I got
There
three
we go.
more years.
You can do it. You can do it.
I don't know if I want to now.
Go for it. Go for it.
Hi, Katera. You are so beautiful as usual.
Likewise, Waynette, so great to see you, and thank you for this awesome presentation workshop for everybody.
Thanks for coming and supporting. I appreciate you.
Rose. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye. All right, I got a group to run, so I'm gonna run on over there. Thank you, Cher. I appreciate your support. It's been great.
Where you going, girl?
Huh? I gotta go run a rap support group we have every week.
Enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for coming and presenting.
Thank you, Ruth. I just love Cher. I can't wait to come down to Southern California and meet you all in person.
When you come in?
We're right close to the airport, so let us know and we'll pick you up and give you a tour and maybe even put you up someplace.
Which airport? Culver?
LAX.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So we're happy to pick you up there, and we can, if you need a place to stay, we can usually find a place for you to stay.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Ruth. Woo, I'm so excited. Well, I gotta write that down. It's being recorded, so it's on record. No.
Jonathan, do you have a question? Or did he disappear?
He's gone. All right, everyone, have a blessed, wonderful hump day.